Hi everyone. Well, time for a book review. And yes, I am in the passenger seat of my car because it's quiet and I can do this uninterrupted without extraneous noise. So yeah, I've got a few books, two that I've read recently, which I'd like to review. So this is the first one, My Fight, Your Fight by Ronda Rousey. Now, you may be wondering, why am I reading a book like this when pretty much all of my other reviews are about science books? And yeah, the reason for that is I first became aware of this lady 2014, I think it was, when she came to Australia. And I think it was the first, and I'm not really into this UFC thing or mixed martial arts. The first time I ever saw it, I thought, man, that is so violent. But anyway, so she came to Australia, I think it was 2014, and the media was just non-stop. It was huge. It was, this undefeated world champion, first time ever fighting outside of Australia for the UFC. And yeah, it really piqued my interest because I find it fascinating when people are so good at what they do. It's really interesting to read about or to find out about, just to follow them, to see what's going on. And I mean, Don Bradman was like that, the way he could do what he did. And, I wouldn't say she was touted as a Bradman, but she was, it was unheralded what she'd done. And so that kind of got my interest. I'll tell you about what happened in that fight later. Yeah, those who know will know. So that kind of piqued my interest, and then it died down. And I guess the other good thing too is I like reading sports. Not that I've hardly read any for years and years. I used to read them a lot in my teens or my early 20s, books mainly about Australian cricketers. But the thing that I like about biographies from sports people is that it's all about achieving a goal and organising yourself to achieve the goal and the commitment and stuff like that. And there's things that you can learn from that no matter what field you're in. Obviously, I'm in a very different field to that, but there's still things you can learn from about their focus and commitment, and that's kind of why I like reading them. But, sport, I guess I lost sport. I mean, I don't like the commercialisation that's happened in sport in the last decade or more, but, I kind of lost interest in sport, I guess, when I got into my 30s, because you realise it's cooperation is more important than competition, and the answers to our problems lie more in cooperation than competition. But still, there's a certain value in what you can read, and what you can learn from sports people and the way they approach their tasks, basically, and their challenges. So anyway, so I bought a copy of this and was reading it, and yeah, it's pretty incredible. There's some things in here I really liked and some things I really didn't like. She's quite an enigma, and you can see that in the eyes there. But yeah, she was one wild child who was determined to do things her way, even if she didn't really know what that way was. As a parent, I can understand the kind of frustration of that a mother must have felt at times. And also, a mother's a really amazing character too. She was a world champion. I think judoka is the word for someone who does judo. Funny thing is, I did judo for 5 years as a young kid. So I think I found out somewhere that she'd done judo first. And so a lot of this book, probably the first third or so, is about her judo and that. So I found that quite interesting, having done a fair bit of judo. But yeah, so yeah, pretty wild, and kind of needing to establish something but not entirely sure what it was, I think really drove her. But I was just gobsmacked right at the beginning, and I guess these aren't really spoilers, but she had an amazing start to life. She was born with an umbilical cord around her throat, which choked her, and she had a very small amount of brain damage, which impeded the way she spoke. And so basically the brain had to rewire how it controlled its speaking. She was almost died when she was born. She didn't speak till she was about 3 years of age, which I found interesting because I didn't speak till I was about 2 years of age. And my sister used to interpret stuff for me, and her sisters did for her too. And then her father dies when she's young, and he has a very unfortunate and very serious accident just playing with the kids. I think it was tobogganing or on a sled or something, a spinal injury, and then he ended up sadly committing suicide about a year after his horrific injury. And that's just really sad. I think she was 7 or 8 when that happened, and you know, that as a start to life is really sad. But anyway, into like the fight. So her mum was a world champion judo player, judoka, whatever the word is, and Ronda took that up and was very good at it. She went to the Olympics twice, got a bronze medal in 2008, and then she quit. And anyway, decided, long story short, decided she wanted to do the mixed martial arts, and eventually found her way into the UFC. And you know, this period in her life, it's all it's what the Americans call the hustle, you know, where, and I suppose a lot of sports people have to do, and even artists as well, like people who are pursuing their dreams, and they have to do lots of part-time jobs to give themselves time to either train like she was, or practice their art, or, you know, whatever, you know, area you're into. And but I don't know, the way that's done in America, it just seems so extreme. It's, you know, really crap jobs for really poor pay. She was homeless at one stage, you know, living in bad accommodations, series of really bad boyfriends. She made some really bad choices, which I think she'd admit to as well. But the book goes into some of that stuff, and the personal bit. She does actually get, you know, a bit personal, which is quite good, because the sun's getting a bit bright there, isn't it? Let me just put my my shade up there. Because that gives the book a you know, fair bit of personal weight and insight and value into her personality and her struggles, and she's quite open about some things, like trying to get the weight down. I think it was when she's doing judo, suffering from bulimia, and being bullied at school because, you know, having bigger arms and, you know, stronger body, she was seen as not so feminine, which is just kind of crap, because you know, there's nothing unfeminine about it, but also, you know, she is a pretty attractive person physically with the looks and that. So, you know, maybe that's why she was getting bullied. You know, maybe that was a motivation behind it. I don't know, but anyway, so, you know, it was all kind of, the struggle part was, I mean, it was sad the way she was doing it and the environment she had to do it in that economy they have in America. They just seem to live off people. I think it's really bad. But anyway, and so then she gets into the UFC and she becomes very successful. But this is where I started to not like it, or not like it, not like certain things about her. And I mean, I'm far more pro than con, but the thing I don't like is the massive amount of self-confidence. And, you know, where she's continually saying, I'm the best in the world, no one can take me out, blah, blah, blah. You know, she works her way up. And, you know, on one hand, you should have good self-confidence, but you shouldn't have too much self-confidence. You shouldn't have so much self-confidence that you don't ever question yourself. And it's just full of that. And I think it was on Mark Manson's podcast, A Subtle Art of Not Giving an F. I won't say the word, you know what it is. I don't think it was him. I think it was, he interviewed a documentary maker. I can't remember the story. I can't remember exactly how it worked, but he knew, anyway, someone made this documentary on Kanye West, and early on, he'd go into these studios and say, I'm going to be the world's greatest rapper, and they'd just laugh at him, like these recording studios and record labels. They just laugh at him and, you know, say, who are you, and not give him a contract. And anyway, he stuck at it, and eventually did become the best in the world, or, you know, the top in the world or whatever in that area. But then at that stage, his confidence was so great that he wasn't listening to people who were giving him good feedback. And he, you know, as we all know, he's kind of gone off the rails in a big way. Not that I'm a fan, it's just what I pick up, you know. And so you can have too much confidence and you stop listening to valuable feedback from people. And this is what I think happened to her. And so she, the book only goes, she had, let me get this right, she had 14 fights in the UFC, 12 were undefeated. This goes up to the 11th fight, and it's basically, I don't know if I should even read from this, but the very last line in here is, above all, there is indisputable knowledge that I am the greatest in this role in the history of the world. And there's a whole lot of stuff like that all in here. And so she had 12 undefeated fights, most of which were won by an armbar, which is when you bend someone's arm back, which is kind of her judo move that she's adapted in there. And so the 13th fight is the one which she came to Australia for. And yeah, she was beaten in no time flat. I think it was a knockout or a technical knockout, can't remember. And so, no, sorry, yeah, this goes up to the 11th, and she has the 12th where she won, yeah, and then the 13th she comes to Australia. And so this great person who's roundly feted in all the media, greatest ever, blah, 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 gets smashed in no time flat. And then she took a year off, and just reading a Wikipedia page, she said she even contemplated suicide in that period, which is terrible, but she came back and got smashed again. And I think what happened is that she didn't adapt or evolve. I mean, to look at it in a basic evolution or biological term, the environment changed, and she didn't change with it. I think she was a bit of a one-trick pony. She was able to bring in some judo moves which hadn't been done before or weren't really understood, or the other women weren't good at them. And so she was able to win that way. And then when all of that changed, when the competition caught up with that, and the way she was beaten in the other fights didn't involve any wrestling down on the ground. So her competitors caught up with her and changed, and she didn't adapt and was beaten and then quit. And, you know, just that constant self-confidence, and then you get smashed at the end. It's, you know, like, it's self-defeating in the end. It's not, it doesn't help you. And, you know, I think of all of the great sports stars that I've liked, people have been really talented, like Jeff Thompson, Kim Hughes, Paul Vanderhaar, Simon Madden was my favourite AFL player when I was a kid when we lived in Melbourne. And then when I got into rugby, David Campese, Michael Liner and Mark Ella. Kim Hughes, he was a fantastic batsman, loved him. But the one sports star I know that stands out from all the rest that I've seen in my life who's had the biggest effect was Alan Border. And he was known for his grit and his determination. He certainly wasn't the best batsman in the world, but he was probably the hardest fighting. And, you know, there's just something to be said. It's not about how confident you are. It's about, you know, knowing that you're not the best, but persisting and going hard continuously. Yeah, no, it's not even about not knowing it. It's about not caring whether or not you're the best. It's about always trying to improve and always continuing on regardless of your situation or your status or your standing or whatever. And, you know, that's something that I think she missed, and that you miss with, you know, just being worried about whether or not you're the best in the world. And the funny thing is, if you're having to continually boast that you're the best, it just makes you look weak. It makes you look insecure. And I think that's because you really are. And then she went on to do wrestling. And, you know, I got a lot of respect for what they do in terms of the acrobatics. And it is pure theatre and kind of entertainment, but it's not sport. I don't know why she went there. I guess just to maintain some kind of stardom using a physicality or something. But, yeah. And, you know, I do recall a funny quote by Mark Knopfler. I think it was Clive James interviewing him. And Knopfler said, yeah, Clive was asking him about his singing. And Knopfler said, well, I don't really sing. I just stumble from one disaster to the next or something like that. And, you know, but his songs are beautiful, and I can't imagine anyone else singing them. You know, so it's about being the best you can be and always trying to improve and not worrying about your standing. And yeah, the constant boasting. And I saw an interview after she was defeated in that first time, and she was still saying she was the best in the world. And, you know, it's just silly. So it's a shame this book only goes up to that point, because what happens from then on would be fascinating, and how she dealt with it. Maybe there's going to be a sequel, who knows. Her videos are funny when you look at them online. She's on a farm and very interested in conservation, which is great. And so she's planting a whole lot shrubs for the monarch butterflies that migrate through that area. And I don't know, fascinating person. I will call this Act 1. Let's hope that's all it is. Act 1. This shouldn't be the be-all and end-all in her outlook on life, and I'm sure it's not. But it's just a shame the point that it ends on. I'm so great. But anyway, so that's what I thought about that book. So yeah, I guess these things are interesting because you take away life lessons from someone else, and the book's broken up into small chapters, and she gives little kind of lessons or takeaway points, mainly to do with fighting, which again you can adapt back to whatever kind of task you're doing, I suppose, and to some degree. And something I really do like is her commitment to what she's doing, just how totally invested she is. And maybe that's where the confidence comes from, but you can't confuse the two. But anyway, so there you go. So I know I've done other videos about confidence in my little, what do I call that, playlist on the serious side, I think. Yeah, you got to be careful. You never want to exclude good feedback, even if it's critical. But anyway, there you go. I did really enjoy that. It's a very easy book to read. The other amazing thing, she's very intelligent, and her mum's got a PhD. Why they're mucking around doing fighting, I guess that's everyone's choice, but, no problem. It's someone's own choice. But when you're that smart, there's better things you can do. Seriously, there are. But anyway, there you go. I enjoyed it. I'm not trying to have a go. I did quite enjoy it, and I'm sure she's on to bigger and better things now. So that's my review of Ronda's book. Okay. See you, everyone.